open this up. It says we're live. I do this every time. Let me check YouTube, make sure it's actually live. Because I have boomered an entire podcast before a couple of years ago.
Oh man, I've had to refilm so many of my videos. It's not even funny.
We are live. Guys, welcome Tristan from Modern Saviors. If you are not following his work on Twitter and on YouTube here, you're missing out, particularly if you're a Superman fan, super particularly if you're a Man of Steel Snyderverse fan, which you should be if you're not. What's up, Baki? He says, hey, chat. Hey, everybody.
What's going on?
Both of you. So, Tristan here. Oh, hey, there we go. Rev. What's up, Rev? If you want a link, just let me know, man. I'll throw you in here. So, Tristan here has been posting probably the best Superman content to maybe ever exist on the internet.
Come on.
Especially if you are a fan of the Snyderverse, because you have mined this universe, these three movies and more, and their related comics for mythological and biblical symbolism deeper than anyone I've ever seen. So, other than just a love for the game, what started this, man? What put that fire in you to do that?
Yeah, so it was a couple different things. I'd say there were three main factors. The earliest and kind of most predating one was back in college. I got a history degree, and I was always just pretty particularly good at that subject and the skill of researching and writing and then presenting, your findings, your ideas, what your perspective of that topic is. And so my senior seminar class was the history of the military-industrial complex. And so my Iron Man video on my channel is actually my senior college essay. That's one of my videos that's definitely going to get a remaster one day. Those early editing skills kind of held that one back a bit. But that was like a precursor to the whole thing. I hadn't really had the idea. I was still thinking I could be like you and be an indie author and come up with all the fiction, but I needed something more research-based, something more structured. And then for so long, especially after, the vandalism of Justice League and just the deterioration of DC over the years, I just grew so unhappy with comic book culture that I knew I was always going to be a fan. I was never going to not love stories, the movies, the comics, the Arkham games, whatever else. But to the point, 2017 onward, the culture just degraded, and I didn't really see myself represented anywhere in it. I guess you could extrapolate that out to the rest of society for sure. But I just didn't see anywhere where I anything I was interested in or anything I wanted. So I definitely didn't feel like, hey, that guy, I relate with him. Definitely didn't have that feeling from any creator. So it got to be to a point of fine, I'll do it myself. But I just wanted to offer something different to comic book culture. And then the day when it really all came together was Easter of 2023. I went to church with my grandma that morning where I now live. And I listened to the pastor tell the story, and he told the story of Luke chapter 23 of, the crucifixion and how the thief on the right and the thief on the left, they both died with Christ, but one was sent to heaven, the other, damned to hell forever. And I just kept sitting there thinking, I've heard this story before. I've heard this. Where does this come from? For some reason, I've heard this story before. And then it all clicked that was what Batman v Superman reenacts with, Superman as the central Christ figure. And then, Batman as the thief who professes his faith in Christ. And then Lex, of course, who was damned to, the hell of DC, Arkham. He was the one that just railed on him to the point of his death. And that was really my come to Jesus moment. Literally Batman v Superman did it for me because of that connection. Because, I grew up going to church and all that, and I grew up like attending service and all that, but I just, as a kid, it felt like such a place of authority that it was another thing I had to be dragged to, another thing I had to listen to, and I just, that youthful rebellion. But then once Batman v Superman bypassed that, initial ignorant objection of it, I was like, oh, like, so that's what all this means. That's the story that's being told here. It's the same as this secular substitute that like already instilled the story within me because of its reenactment of it. And so those three things, yeah, just Iron Man in the military industrial complex, my want for a better representation in comic book culture, which I guess would be my video reclaiming comic book culture, and then Batman v Superman, or the brilliance of BVS in the Book of Luke. Those would be like the three videos that really capture why I do this.
Yeah, and what you just said is really important to me, and I think will become more and more important to the world, which is that you were able to just extrapolate from and connect three very different things into one thing. And that's the nature of art that I've realized, is that you took mythology, you took history, you took your own personal experience and more, you took philosophy, and you took current events and tied them all into one thing. And that's what art is in an abstract level. I mean, when you have to actually bring it down and make it into something, it's different. But I think that, and we can circle back to this because it's a big, big topic, but it's probably the one I want to talk most about with everybody I have on here. That is, I think, the missing quality of modern art, is that it's so self-referential instead of being external. I'm going to pull up what Baki said while you were talking real quick.
Real quick to reply to what you just said about, me being able to string all those things together, which I appreciate you recognizing that. But what I will say is that is such a practiced skill. And, I would typically be someone who people say they overthink, or like I always overthink everything. That I think is a superpower. If you're able to really think through things, you can make some insane connections. So people are typically their own kryptonite. It's like, don't show your gifts in a bad light. You'll only think they're weaknesses.
Oh yeah, I agree. And Baki made this point while you were discussing it before about the connection between the thieves on the cross and Christ, as Longinus being blessed after piercing Christ with a spear and becoming a saint. I think he's connecting that to Batman, as you were doing.
Yeah, absolutely. That's Luke 23:47. It's I'm butchering it. Certainly, this man is the righteous Son of God, something like that.
Oh yeah. Hey, welcome, Tank Ferret.
That's what steers Batman back to the right path. Everybody thinks it's the Martha moment, but it's not complete there yet. It's not complete. He still has to go through that rebirth of, Superman's not my enemy. Let me vicariously save my own mother through yours. Batman's reborn, and then the death of the Savior. It's like, oh, I better imitate his example.
Oh yeah,
condense it down.
Oh yeah, I mean we can come back to that as well to build it. But the Martha moment is grossly misunderstood.
Oh, it's so beautiful. I could do a whole nother show just about that scene. It's so wonderfully beautiful. Like people, honestly, I would say it's the best comic book movie scene. Maybe that's the contrarian in me, but like I could argue it.
I think part of the problem points to a lack of, and I was going to write a Substack on this, a lack of understanding of feminine archetypes in the modern world. I don't mean that in a feminist perspective. I kind of mean it in a classical perspective that skewers the feminist perspective too. There's the archetype of the mother, the maiden, and the crone that goes all the way back, even through Shakespeare, even way before Shakespeare, through the Fates.
Mm.
And our culture is obsessed with the maiden because our culture is obsessed with sex.
Absolutely.
The mother and the crone are overlooked.
We worship the woman.
Yeah. And that's not the proper order of things. And I don't think you can understand a scene like that where it is purely divine femininity shining through. I think our culture, as you said, like it worships the feminine, but it doesn't know what it's worshiping, so it perverts it, and it's messed up, and it's just so confused. And case in point, let me pull this up. This is from your Twitter. This was a very bold and ballsy video, but man, it was awesome. It was like Homelander, the liberal Superman. Like, I want you just to run with that real quick, if you don't mind, for everyone here who hasn't seen it yet.
Yeah, so it took a year, 7 months, and 7 days to have one go off, but finally this did. But I had this idea forever, and so many people fell for the clickbait aspect of it. Like it was intentionally provocatively worded. But the thing is I wasn't talking about, oh, Homelander himself, he's a liberal. Like, that's not what I said at all in that video. It's how the Superman fits into your ideology. Because I say so many times in that video that your relationship with power will determine your relationship with Superman. Like me personally, I want to, whether that's strength, muscle mass, or like financial incentives, I want to gain power. I want to gain strength. I want to be able to wield it. So when I see Superman, that's what I do, or that's what I attempt to do. That's what I imitate. But in the liberal ideology, you see this throughout their memes. You see this throughout just their entire linguistic model, is that the victim is always the hero. You see it in their memes. Best of all, there'll be like some fat doofus in a red hat come walking in, and then like there'll be like just some sad looking, like, oh wow, you really think that, like that sort of thing. Anyway, the victim is the hero in that ideology. So I think a victim is defined as anyone who is powerless in their situation. So therefore, if you have Homelander or Superman's level of power, if you are a Superman, then in that ideology, you cannot possibly be good. You cannot possibly be a hero within that ideology, because power would be explicitly evil. Power would be explicitly evil because the hero has to be powerless in order to fulfill the hero role within that ideology.
Yeah. That's to tie it to a modern example for people. I think Jordan Peterson made that point where the idea of like, it's, if you're harmless, you're not good, you're not moral. And, we can go back and forth on that or whatever, but I think that's a good summation of that idea. And I think there is a lot of truth to it. Like being harmless and being meek or being controlled are not, like controlling yourself, are not the same thing.
Yeah. You responded to one of my tweets one day with that quote about C.S. Lewis quote about a lion, I think. Yeah. It's like, Superman's the lion. Like, are you going to be safe around a lion? It's like,
oh
dude,
yeah.
It's a lion.
It's that he's not safe, but he's good.
Right.
Yeah.
And so again, in that sense, it's your relationship with power. So if you're around a lion, I have some neighbors that have this huge pit bull every day, and I'm not going to lie, that thing's pretty scary. But when I see it, I'm stern, I'm defensive, I'm not going to give into it. However, if I was around a lion and I was a total victim, and a complete victim, then the lion would be terrifying, and I'd be worried I'd get eaten. But if I knew we're able to harness and wield my own power, I would have a better chance, at the very least, against the lion. So, it's your relationship with power that determines how you're going to see the Superman, the lion, the anyone who wields power in any way.
Well, that's an interesting thing to tie those two together with the worship of the feminine in the modern world and power, is if you notice, especially like the Tumblr looking Superman drawings and like that new show or whatever that came out, like My Adventures with Superman.
Oh, God.
Every show like that undermines male power.
Oh, absolutely.
Even when Superman is the strongest man on the planet, he's somehow always outdone by Lois. He's always super shy. He's always super mean. It's like, look, Clark Kent was not like a coward. Mm-hmm. Like he was reserved and he was mild mannered, and he might take like an insult on the chin, but I was watching the 1940s like Flesher cartoons with my kids, and even when like Lois like gives him a backhanded compliment, he looks at the camera and winks, telling the audience like, we know what's going on here.
Yeah, like I'm still in control here. Like I have my, authority. I stand up for myself in this situation.
Yeah, and I think I know I'm jumping around, but I think I've wanted to talk with you about this for a while. I think that is a subconscious or sub-spiritual thing, and I understand some people have legitimate things they don't like, but I think that is why people have a visceral reaction to these films. I think a lot of people see Man of Steel and Batman v Superman and Justice League, and they have a visceral reaction to masculine energy and masculine power.
Absolutely. I actually tweeted about this like yesterday, I think. There's consequences that you have to actually feel the weight of in those films. And that's what so many people cower away from, because, you have to put yourself outside of it. You have to look like, what I have done, or I guess put yourself inside of it. What would I have done? What could I have done? Like what was it the right thing to do? It leaves questions unanswered. And I think that's what a large subsect of fans can't stand, is to have to come to their own conclusions. Because a movie that lets you know the squirrel is safe and lets you know that all the soldiers bounced off the concrete and the dog is out of the way. It's a movie like that. There's no consequences. There's no, sort of grit to it. There's no weight. And so it just becomes this meaningless feminine shade of just good feels,
Oh yeah. And I think that's starting to run dry, honestly. I think that there's something within I think you're articulating, and this is a whole thing I'm going to go off on. I've got so much to say because I'm so glad you're here finally.
No problem. I got all night.
Even I have even a growing problem with even the anti-woke like Gamergate crowd that came out. People were always reacting to like woke stuff and video games and movies and TV, and these guys get millions and millions of views, but it runs dry because you realize they can't actually articulate what the problem is. They can say, well, how come the 90s or the 80s or the 70s movies were better? But they can't really articulate it.
It's reactionary.
Yeah, and it runs dry, and I think that's why people are starting to wake up and kind of realize it too, is that they're not artists and they're not thinking in that way. I was talking about, they're not pulling these things together. Like, I don't think any of these guys, and this isn't a highfalutin or a snobbery thing, but the fact that I can look at this Superman flick and pick out 4 different references to not only biblical, but like other mythological sources, not only speaks to the art of the films, but speaks to like, okay, this is what you should know if you're enjoying and commenting on stuff.
Right. Yeah, it's like, or at least just have a basic grasp of, the character's motivations, or like, the dialogue that it tells you. We could sit here and go through all the complaints that people raise about, Snyderverse or proper DC or whatever you want to call it, but there's just so much like richness when DC's done properly like that. Like even, and it's not just about Snyder either. Like Nolan himself, there's a whole connection throughout The Dark Knight to Julius Caesar and how he holds on to his power for too long, and he eventually meets his demise because of it. Like there's such a richness and a depth, and there's so much substance to DC that to boil it down to bright colors and big smiles is just a complete disservice.
Well, even when DC's done right, it's done mythologically. And I'll say this because anybody who's watching, like, it's really fun for me to meme on Twitter, because that's what Twitter's for.
Jokes.
Yeah, I can understand if someone watches the Snyder films and they're like, hey, I grew up reading like Gold and Silver Age, I don't care for like that more Burns view of Superman.
Right.
That's fine. There's no accounting for taste.
Reasonableness.
Yeah. Whatever, that's fine. I know guys that have read comics for like 40 years, longer than I've been alive, and they're like, I don't like Snyderverse because that's not Reeves. It's like, okay, fine. That's a preference. You saw Reeves when you were like, or Reeves, I'm sorry, whenever you were like 20 or 18 to 20, that was your guy. But coming back around to what you were just saying, even like the Batman cartoon from the 90s, it has that. First of all, it's jam packed full of symbolism. Second, it's got that wonderful line that everyone knows, which is, I am vengeance, I am the night, I am Batman.
Mm-hmm.
No, like, what, and I like Marvel, but like, what Marvel character could say something like that and it worked?
Maybe Iron Man, maybe like, yeah, Marvel just doesn't even hold a candle to DC. Like, I like their stories, and I don't want to jump into a Marvel DC tangent, but
Yeah.
like, DC just is so elevated so highly. And I think that goes back to what you were saying a second ago about, is it artists that are making this? Because when Bruce Timm went on his run, that man was an artist. Yeah. A damn good one, I must say. He just really knew what he was doing. And you watch that, like, season 1 of Batman the Animated Series, every frame, work of art, painting, master. Like, the first one that comes to mind is that frame of Batman inside the Batmobile, and like the city's flying by him, and outside it's blue, and it's like it's so just.
And you can hear that music.
Yeah. It grips, and so like Dark Knight trilogy, Snyderverse, all just such a continued elevation of that, and it's just we've definitely taken a step back then since. What I call the great vandalism, which is really just 2017 Justice League, but but yeah, there's just there's so much to it, and I hate to really like sink my teeth into like the fandom war or whatever, because I like to avoid it, but as much as I can. But it's like, I try to make an effort to really only like talk about positives. I'm like, here's what's really good about this, but lately I've kind of slipped in that just because, you just see people who aren't experts who claim to be, and it's just like, buddy, you're clearly not getting it here. So,
well, and I have never seen bot swarms like I have whenever I talk about Snyderverse. I have never. I guess there's a lot of things on the internet. Like, I don't talk about Israel Palestine, so maybe I'm wrong. But like, anytime Snyderverse comes up, just tons of bots.
Right. And when you think about that on like, I guess the next question to that is like, where do they come from? And so, where do they come from? How high does the top go? A group of fans doesn't really have the funds to have a bot farm like that, but a major corporate studio does, for sure. And so, it's like, how high does the top go? And if they're so adamant about trying to discourage any sort of conversation around proper DC to try and sell us this new garbage, how much do these people really care to like form the myth's image? Because I talked about this in one of my recent videos, like, whoever the Superman is who like the man is going to be, because he's that ultimate myth of us. He's that like ultimate idea. So whoever the Superman is going to portray the idea of what the best possible man is. And so if he's sucked into that victimhood mentality, that the victim is the hero mentality, then it's going to drastically depower the Superman to a point where he can be a victim at all. You see what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah. I was pulling up this to connect with it, where you said subtracting the human experience from the Superman results in Homelander.
Right. So there's a little bit of Superman. There's a little bit of Homelander there. There's a little bit of Superman. There's a little bit of biblical a bit of a biblical aspect to that. And so, where do I start here? So Jesus coming to earth, of course, is the downcoming of God. That's God coming to live the human experience so he can participate in the suffering that is a result of what he designed, so that he can't say he is removed from it. Think back to Twilight of the Gods. Odin's trying to get more power. He's sacrificing himself to himself. But then Jesus comes along and he's the only one to sacrifice. He's the only God to sacrifice something for you instead of you sacrificing something to them. And so one of the main reasons that sacrifice is so valid, not only because he's the Son of God, but because he spent those 33 years as a man. He gained the experience of a man. And so being able to relate through that shared lived experience is what makes him a proper deity, is what makes him a true savior. And Superman, within his own world, I can't stress that enough. I'm not talking about Superman's God. He's a fictional character. Within his own world, within DC, he has also lived an entire life of a human experience. That's why he has to hide his powers, because he's isolating himself into the human experience. Because like Jor-El said, he has to know what it means to be a man first. And that's why Jonathan Kent made such a noble of a sacrifice as he did. It's so that Jonathan knew that Superman would become either savior or destroyer.
Yeah.
Whoever that character is, good character or bad, he's going to change the world. Jonathan knew that he would either be savior or destroyer. So he thought that, preserving his freedom to choose is going to lead to the best path of him going the savior route. And of course, the government hunting him down in the case that his powers are exposed would lead to chaos. But he knew. And so that's why he had to preserve that human experience from him. Because Homelander's a lab rat. Homelander's a science experiment. He's a test tube. He puts on the facade of, all American, grew up in Kansas, general, the whole deal. But he's a lab rat. He never lived that human experience because he's also had his powers from birth. Superman has as well, but like I said, he's isolating that experience. Homelander's had his powers from birth, so he never lived the human experience. And in the Homelander video, that's why I said they accidentally tell Christian stories by trying to ridicule false gods, because yes, he is in fact a false god without that human experience. And so that's what that line means.
Well, and with Homelander being the liberal Superman, that's what you get from a whole generation of men that live as Homelander rather than living as Clark Kent. Is when you are a lab rat, so to speak, you're locked in, live in the pod, eat the bugs.
Yeah.
You're not going to get virtuous men.
Oh, not at all. You get monsters.
And the more powerful they are, the worse they'll be. Like that's the thing about. I loved Snyder versus Jonathan Kent because he's not only protecting his son from the world, he's protecting the world from his son.
That's a great point. I never put it that way. That's a great point.
Well, that's what you just said. I just stole it from you.
Well, to condense it into like a sentence like that. That's he's saving the world from his son, which in turn is saving his son from himself. Because imagine at elementary, middle, high school age. He goes on the run from the government the whole time. Zod shows up, and he's like, hey, you're actually one of us. I don't know what these humans have been putting you through, but you're part of the most expansive empire the galaxy's ever known. We're what's left. And of course, he's going to be like, well, yeah, I'm going with you guys. Like, screw these people. They've chased me down and hunted me my whole life. But that American corn-fed Kansas experience is what makes him the Superman. And in my last two videos, I go so into depth in that. It's You'll have to go watch those to rehash all that.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
crazy.
Rev Self-Destruct says the Heavenly Father and the Earthly Father in Virgin is really powerful. Yeah, it's those the way that they do. Here's something I would recommend for this isn't to proselytize, but something I would recommend for anyone who wasn't like a fan of Man of Steel is try to watch it and try to just focus on the two different plots at different times. I would say watch it one time watching the flashbacks, and then watch it one time focusing on like the modern world. Because I think what kind of throws people off is like they don't see how those things mirror all the time. And that's the thing, is like the Heavenly Father, which is Jor-El, and the Earthly Father, which is Jonathan Kent. When you really pay attention, really focus to the flashbacks with both of them and the modern, like what's happening with Zod, you see this trifecta of three fathers of who he could be. He could be Jor-El, he could be Jonathan Kent, or he could be Zod. He has the potential to be all of these things. And
Kal-El, Clark Kent, or Superman.
Exactly, yeah, and thankfully he has enough Jonathan Kent and Jor-El in him to not become under the false father of Zod, the Antichrist Zod.
Yeah, and that's what Jonathan sacrificed himself for.
Yeah, and I don't know. I'm not going to argue for people to like it, but I almost thought about doing a cut of that on my YouTube channel, just cutting all the flashbacks and letting people see it. Just see the whole movie in the flashbacks, and then see the whole movie in the A plot. And I think a lot of people, it might click for people. I don't know if it's like an attention span thing or they're just not putting it together, but I think that those parallels would come together better. Sunny Days with Gray Cloud. What's up, Gray Cloud? If you guys haven't, follow Modern Saviors on Twitter and subscribe and like everything he does on YouTube. You will not be disappointed. Trust me.
Yeah. The quickest way, you could just go to www.modernsaviors.com, and it's like all my links are there.
I'll put that in the chat.
But yeah, thank you to anyone who does that. Every follow is appreciated. Yeah, you see people ask about Man of Steel, like, oh, where does Superman's love for humanity come from? Where does he help us out? I guess I'm matching the more reasonable and the more unreasonable responses here, but at every point in that film, he chooses us. He surrenders himself to Zod. He willingly goes with him to offer himself for humanity. And then again, Krypton had its chance, and then Zod offering to rebuild the planet. He's like, no. And then so you get to his death, and that's just the ultimate act of choosing humanity, because obviously there's the that was the last of his kind, but he was willing to forego his his unsullied hands. I love, that's the best line by Zod in the whole movie.
Yeah.
Superman was willing to forego his unsullied hands. Superman was willing to do the one thing you're never supposed to do for humanity. So having Superman cross that line for humanity is the most justifiable thing there is, especially when Zod himself is given the best possible death he could have.
A warrior's death, yeah.
Yeah, it goes back to what you were saying earlier. Like, do you want to put him in the Phantom Zone to suffer for all of eternity, or do you want him to honorably die in battle? Another thing I'll add to, if maybe you didn't see what was going on in Man of Steel the first times, watch it from Zod's perspective. Pretend that Zod is the hero, and it takes on a whole different meaning, because they're born without free will. I could talk about this movie all night. They're born without free will, and he's just doing everything he can to do his job and protect his people.
Oh yeah, I mean he's a tragic figure. His world was destroyed, and he goes to rebuild it, and the son of his enemy that stopped him before stops him again, and he loses everything. But he's too, some of it's his fault, some of it isn't, but he's too blinded to recognize that Krypton lives on in Clark, and it's like, it's already there. You have Krypton, you just don't like it.
Yeah, you just said something kind of crazy there. So it's the father's son coming back to defeat him And so I guess, I guess you could portray it in a way that, Jor-El being the foremost scientist, he would be the most knowledgeable on all of Krypton. So, he would be omniscient in a sense. And then so for Zod to be so prideful to not work with Jor-El is very reminiscent of Satan and then being cast down or cast from Krypton. And then, the world engine has the blue laser. So it's like being cast down with lightning only for the sun to defeat him. And so there's something there. That's a loose idea, but there's something there. You do be giving me some homework sometimes. You will tag me in tweets, and I'm like, bro, I don't know. I have never heard of that. I got nothing. Let me do my research, and then I get busy. And you mentioned one about Zod and the Red Dragon, and I did not have a clue on that one.
I'll throw it up here. I think I just pulled it up while you were talking. I had that, I think, while we were talking in a DM actually or something. And
this one. I was like, man, I got to study that one.
Because I mean, I don't know. I think it works. I mean, because he confronts Superman's mother, and he's like, he's trying to stop Superman going to Earth and all this thing, and then he chases him to Earth while she flees in the biblical sense. She dies in the movie.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think it works. I think Zod is kind of like an antichrist figure in that sense. Like, he is the Superman that could have been. He's the militant one that wants to rule the world in a sense, rather than give himself up for it. Like, Zod, for all of his strength and noble qualities, still won't make the proper sacrifice for Krypton. He won't die for Krypton. He'll kill for Krypton.
Well, I think that goes into his programming to, always protect Krypton. I think maybe, him being alive is the most important thing for Krypton's safety. So I can kind of see that angle. It's kind of like how Jor-El, him being, programmed from birth too, was able to send Kal-El off, because within his programming to use science to save Krypton, he was able, I think his programming was able to justify that. I think another detail that's missed about Man of Steel quite often is that Jor-El perfectly times Kal's birth for the day Krypton dies. Because Laura gives birth that day, and Krypton explodes. So, it shows how smart he is. It shows how, it shows what Superman's really coming from.
Oh, yeah. And this, this is just a fun, a fan thing from the side I thought would be cool. Like Zod is Krypton's defender. I would have loved to have seen him smash up Steppenwolf. To see him and Feora and the rest just dog walk Darkseid would have been awesome.
Yeah, because they, the films, they hint at all those connections between the Kryptonians and the Apocalyptians, and it's to really theorize about that. It's so crazy because, you see that their technology is similar, and I believe Silas Stone has that line about how similar technology, similar civilizations with the boom tube and the world engine, and then people will say how Darkseid lose Earth. It's like he never needed to go back to a planet. He just laid waste to it. Why would he ever even think to need that? And so I think the Kryptonians and the Apocalyptians definitely ran into each other at some point. And, maybe Doomsday was an experiment to fight against Darkseid, to fight against Steppenwolf. There's no the lore that Snyderverse adds to DC is just insane. There's so much depth and substance there. It's crazy.
Well, let's segue, if you don't mind, two more focused topics, which is the nature. This sounds so pretentious, but the nature of man and power, because that's what the second film, particularly BVS, is about.
Right.
And whenever Superman 2025 came out, which I couldn't finish it, I'm not gonna smack talk it. I had no problem with Corn Sweat as an actor, and as Superman, I think he was given a bad script. I don't think James Gunn knows what a man is, to be honest.
No.
So I couldn't finish the film, so I'm not going to comment on it too much. But what I'm trying to say is the nature, like I was so inspired whenever that came out because
real quick.
Yeah.
Alternatively, I have never seen it, and I will comment on it as much as I want to. I have never watched it. I have never unmuted a clip on my timeline. I can't stand it. It's an eyesore.
I'm just going to give you 3 hours on my channel now to rant about something you haven't seen.
Take me to jail. I haven't seen a movie. Yeah, I'm going to judge it. Take me to jail.
Oh, that's fine. But what the commentary, the narrative when it came out was that this Superman is more human than Man of Steel, and that set me off because and I had a whole tweet storm about it. But every example given of what a human is was weakness, and it goes back to what you were just talking about victimhood and victim mentality. And I would love your thoughts on that because it's like it blew my mind. It's like, does the world not know what a human is?
Yeah,
particularly a man.
So you can call it like woke mind virus. You can call it liberalism, but I think it is just liberal ideology infiltrating, and that's not to cast me in the complete opposite direction and say that I'm like some Trump loving right wing, whatever. But you have your ideology, and I'm going to assess it. It's captured superhero media. It's captured our mythology, and it's trying to weaken. It's trying to associate those meanings of human with weakness, that human with victimhood, because when comparing man to the Superman, the unique aspect that man is going to have compared to the Superman is weakness, physical weakness. So whenever you're in a state of victimhood, whenever you're threatened, then that's going to be that human moment if you focus on the difference. If you focus on the difference between Superman and man. Because that difference is going to be that we are significantly weaker than him. So if you focus on the difference and you want him to be human, then he is going to need to portray weakness and victimhood. However, if you focus on the similarities between man and the Superman, and like we were just saying, he lived and grew up with that full experience of man. He went through childhood, he went through teenage years, he had to become an adult, he had to socialize, he has to live in our world too. So everything that goes on affects him just as much as any of us, if not more, if it's not directly related to him. So it goes back to what I was saying about how it's your relationship with power. What do you do when you have power? In the sense that, what do you do? What are my options? But also in the sense of, how do you conduct yourself? How do you conduct yourself when you finally have the power to take revenge against all your enemies? That's now possible. That is now possible. You can take revenge. Are you going to use your power in a just manner? Are you going to kill Batman to save your mother? Or are you going to use your words to end the conflict peacefully? It's about what you do with power. So if you want to relate to the Superman, you have to imitate him. He can't relate to us because that would bring him down no matter who you are. I don't care if you're the best, most righteous, most strongest, whatever man alive. To have Superman relate to him would be to bring Superman down. So if you want Superman to relate to you, he is going to have to appeal to the lowest common denominator in order to relate to everybody. And so whoever that lowest common denominator is going to be a victim of something. That's why they are the lowest common denominator. But it's kind of like, don't ask what your country can do for you. What can you do for your country? If I want to relate to Superman, then I need to do stuff that Superman does.
Yeah.
I need to imitate him. I need to take on the same problems as him. I need to get in the gym. I need to be huge and muscular and powerful if I want to relate to the Superman. Because because to bring him down to relate to you is to debase him, to depower him, all of that. It's you who has to do that work. You who has to fill in the gaps that the movie doesn't outright answer. It's you who has to build a body that could pull off a Superman costume. Like you have to do the work to relate to the Superman. And I think that is another reason why these people with this victimhood mentality reacted so harshly to proper DC, to Snyderverse, all of it.
I agree, and I think it goes back, and I know it's a meme now, but it's a very interesting psychological point, which is, they ran a test, I think it was Lego, and they found that when boys play with a toy, they say, I am this, and when girls play with it, they say, this is me. Mm-hmm. And so if a boy plays with Batman, he goes, I'm Batman, I want to be Batman. If a girl plays with a Barbie, she says, Barbie is me.
Right.
And I think that goes back, and I hate reductionism, but I'm kind of working on this thesis a little bit, man, and it's not that the feminine is bad, but like we're just in a feminized time, and not even like a good feminine type, like a toxic feminized time, a time where we have let femininity and not a proper femininity just run wild.
Right.
And I mean, you could argue like there's obviously been improper masculinity. You could say, you could say like the 20th century was a lot of that. But it's time for like some kind of a prop, and that's where I'm trying to thread the needle with art and with politics and history. And I've gone on an entire long Twitter thread rants explaining that not all art is political. It's not. Art by definition is not political. However, we are at a time in history, and many times in history this has happened, where the time has come where people have to connect those things properly. And this goes to your idea of the Superman, is if you're going to align something properly, you cannot separate it from what it is. Mm-hmm. And you cannot say, well, this is this, this is this, this is this. And what I'm trying to get to is that there's something transcendental that influences law and politics, and it's that same thing that influences art. Mm-hmm. And you cannot have the Superman be everyone. You cannot have the Superman be everything.
The barrier, or like the threshold of qualification, has to be very high has to be as high as possible to be the Superman. But yeah, go ahead.
Well, Superman has to be something. And to go to bat for what you're doing with all this, especially your commentary of him as representing as America and as the military industrial complex, he has to be that. How do you separate? What else could he be?
Yeah, what else would he be? I have all this power, and I'm just like, I'm a man with the power of God, and I'm just like a nice guy.
And what does nice mean? Right. How do you define that?
So that's the thing. So that's what this new Superman movie. This is how this new Superman movie poisons the well so much. Is because it lowers that barrier to entry to be Superman. Yeah, I've said on Twitter before that kindness is the easiest virtue to fake. That's because to equate the Superman with kindness instead of like the highest attribute, like self-sacrifice, to equate Superman with kindness is to lower that barrier of entry to be the Superman. And yet it promotes this comfortable, like, hand-holding idea of, everyone can be the Superman. No. I reject that as much as possible.
Batman can't even be the Superman. And he's the peak human.
Literally nobody can be the Superman except him.
Yeah.
And so, and we're talking about who he is mythologically here. You know, we can go through comic examples, but like, even just the very definition of the word Superman is the man who's closest to God, essentially.
Yeah.
Essentially. But yeah, equating the Superman with kindness lowers that barrier to entry to where everybody can be Superman, to the point where people who are undeserving of that power think that they are the Superman as well. And yes, like you want to strive for that, but again, that barrier to entry is too low with kindness because so many people can cross that just by faking it. It opens up this. It opens up the well to poisoning, like I was saying.
Well, there's a powerful line in the epistles where Paul is I forget which church it is. It might be Romans, where he's chastising them, and he says, "When I come, will I have to bring a whip?" And what he's I don't know if it's the same, if this is the same book, but he's writing a letter, and he also says he's talking about infiltrators and these subverters that are coming in, talking about the power they have, and that they're spreading a false gospel. And he says, when I get there, I will show them that the gospel is a matter of power and not words.
Mm-hmm.
And what he's doing, I think, is addressing the same thing you're saying. Is like they're basically lying and faking. I'm going to show them that there's a brick wall behind this and there's force behind this. This isn't just a matter of words and acting, that there is something physical and metaphysical and strong that puts force behind these words.
He's saying that when I get there, I'm going to raise the qualification to wield this power because too many peons possess it now because that barrier to entry has been lowered from, actions to words or whatever.
But that's a dangerous idea to the modern world because the modern world hates hierarchy.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what you're describing is hierarchy.
That's the masculine essence.
Yeah.
Real quickly, what you were just saying about, when boys play with toys and when girls play with toys is the girls are like, oh, this doll is me because she's projecting her own identity into the in-group of her dolls. All the dolls need to be on the same page. All the dolls need to get along in the house. So I need to be one of the dolls so I can, maintain this equivalency.
Yeah.
And so then the masculine figure, I am Batman because he's trying. The boy is trying to project his identity to a higher status. He's trying to move up within that hierarchy, even if it's just imaginative. He is imagining himself with all the attributes of Batman. And where, you diverge from boy to man is if, you think you can be Batman by watching Batman movies. No, you be Batman by doing what Batman does. I don't know if you've ever read it, but the comic Batman Mythology, it's called. At least that's what the graphic novel is called. The whole time it's Batman's birthday, and he's putting himself through like rigorous tests and like mind-altering scenarios and like false realities and stuff. But he's just testing himself the whole time to constantly like upkeep his status as like the most dangerous man in the world.
Yeah, and to keep always becoming the Batman.
Right. And so we've mentioned, the separation between masculine and feminine. And what I just said about, the girl keeping the equivalency of her toys and the boy aspiring to it, that is what, everybody wants to talk about men and women being equal. And I'll say this right now, we're not. We're complementary. That's the right word there. We're not equal. We're yin and yang, complementary. And so when I say, I make my hand gestures because girls want to keep that equivalency, which lays a foundation, but the men want to ascend, which builds the structure. Yeah. And so it's that complementary duad of forces there that creates, the structure.
I agree. I've often described it poorly, I would say, as kind of like a fireplace where men are the stone that build the hearth and women are the fire. Because if you don't have it contained, it burns everything. And if you don't have the fire itself, all you got is a pile of rocks.
Right. And the chimney rises to the top and emits what it is fueled by. So
exactly.
That's a great analogy.
And that is shown, I think, to bring us back around, and especially in the film BVS with the character of Wonder Woman, where the first thing you see her do as Wonder Woman is protect someone. Mm-hmm. The first thing she does is throw up a shield to protect Batman. That is the divine feminine.
She maintains life.
Yeah, she fights off Doomsday as best as she can. She wounds him, but he keeps healing. She can't beat this thing.
Mm-hmm.
She is not the one that can defeat this thing. It has to be Superman. It has to be the self-sacrifice. It has to be the spear. But that's what you see, even though she's a warrior Amazon who comes from a culture where there are no men or who hate men. Good reason to. The first thing we see her do is protect life.
Right. Yeah. That's a great point. I didn't really, of course I've thought about it, but like I didn't articulate it like her not being able to stop him, and Superman has to be the one to do it. Oh, which reminds me of one of the most agonizing complaints where people are like, why didn't Superman just give the spear to Wonder Woman? It's like, do you want him to be a massive coward? Do you want to portray the Superman like that? Again, don't want to get into complaints, but it just made me think of that.
Yeah, it also doesn't make sense. Like it doesn't
not at all.
When in the comic says Superman ever taken her lasso? Like,
what would that dialogue? What would that dialogue even look like? Here, you take this, you kill him, or like.
No, I'm weak to this. I might get hurt, and you're telling this to Wonder Woman in Amazonian fashion would say, "What's wrong with you?"
Yeah. Are you a coward? Or it's crazy.
You're gonna tell this warrior woman from a warrior culture, no, you do it. I don't want to get hurt.
Yeah. And then the same people who complain about that, if what they wanted happened, they would then just complain that it's not comic accurate, the death of Superman. So that's why I think, these people who cheer for the past 11, 12 flops, like it's hard for me to see you as part of the DC fandom when, like, there's nothing that would satisfy. Nothing. Nobody was satisfied with the new Superman movie, not even the fans of it.
Well, going with the idea of hierarchy and power,
right?
Those ideas are inseparable from manhood.
Oh,
and, yeah. And I want to say, like, again, like, this isn't me trying to be politically correct, but I want to say it because I don't think you can make art without the divine feminine. There's proper femininity, and we can talk about that later, which I'd love to. I'm not just trying to degrade the idea of femininity.
Of course.
Yeah, because you can't. I mean, even Paul himself said, "Hey, you can't have the Messiah. You can't have man without woman."
Yeah, it's a superpower in their own right, and women have been convinced that their superpowers are not what they are when they have, the greatest powers of all. I talk about this in my Martha video, which could probably use a remaster, but like you're literally, you bring consciousness into reality.
Potential comes from you.
Right.
Potential is incarnated.
I start off that video by saying, women. and then I go, women are the gatekeepers of reality.
Yeah.
Women want to talk, and so let's be solution oriented. Women talk about wanting there to be better men in the world, which of course is an absolutely admirable goal. But I think it would just be easier to create more good men than turn all the bad men good.
Oh yeah, that's a great point. It's like, if you want better men in the world, breed with good men. You can raise good sons.
You can make that's your superpower. You should be doing something.
And let good men now kick out or execute bad men.
Right. Oh yeah, they could be extrapolated out to so many things, but it's like,
well, let's go down that road and we can come back. But like the divine feminine, Martha and Lois Lane do the proper version of equalizing. Like you said, the memory of Martha and active Lois Lane are the ones that can take the bad of Gotham and the Superman and be like, you guys work together.
Yeah,
there's an equalizing force here.
Yeah, it's this is all in my Martha video, but it's reading Joseph Campbell's chapter on the gift of the goddess, which really is another key factor into me creating my channel and all that. But he's relating it to like Egyptian myths and whatnot, and I think like some of the Vedic gods or whatever. But he talks about how the mother has the power to grant your power and to take it away from you. And
Yeah.
that's still in existence to this day, because what does literally every mom say?
Oh, yeah, I brought you into this world and I can take you out.
Exactly, exactly. And so the thought of Batman's own mother is what depowers him. And then, of course, Lois, she descends into the realm of death to save her lover. That's another thing from Campbell. But she descends into the realm of death. She is also a mother, because we see her conceive a child earlier in the movie. So she is able to depower the two most powerful men in the world. It's all so beautiful. Like, the thing is, everybody, since 2016, everybody's had the joke of, oh, same moms with the same name. It's like, are you in kindergarten? It's Batman's own mother that he is thinking about. Superman's mother doesn't matter. And my theory is that Superman has done so much research on Batman. He can see straight through his mask. He knows he's Bruce Wayne. It wouldn't be hard to find out what happened to Bruce Wayne. When Superman says Martha, he doesn't just say, oh, save my mom. One, because Batman wouldn't know who his mom was. Two, he'd think she was an alien. But three, Superman isn't really talking about his mom. He is intentionally trying to trigger Batman's traumatic memories. He is talking about Batman's mom. You're letting him kill Martha. He's talking about Joe Chill. He's talking about his
because
own...
Lex explained that to Superman about how he subverted Batman. You let your family die.
Yeah. What was it? A few tricks, a couple. I can't remember the line, but yeah, you see in the film Superman's doing research on him, so it makes sense that Superman intentionally says Martha, because he knows it will trigger Batman's trauma or whatever. I got to make a whole video on this.
Yeah,
but there's intentionality to it all. It's not just people jumping around, fighting, blowing stuff up, flying in space, like whatever. There's intentionality to it. Everything you see means something, and that's proper DC.
Oh yeah, and with that, what you're seeing is what causes and rectifies and soothes male competition. It's the feminine. Men fight over women. It's basically, you get the two biggest alphas ever exist. You got Superman, you got Batman. And what soothes their conflict? Hey man, it's time to fight for your mom, and it's time to fight for Lois, another mother actually. That's what keeps societies together. It's like, how do you keep all, especially young men, together who are always competing with each other? It's like, all right, now there's an outside force that's threatening your mom and the mother of your child.
Right. And we also just operate completely differently in the presence of a woman. Yeah. And of course, I'm sure some psycho on the internet could construe this into something terrible, but like, what I'm saying is, if you put 25 men in a room, we can operate with like an almost telepathic understanding of each other. We can operate as soldiers if need be. We can operate as a unit. You put one woman in that room, everybody's mentality changes completely. Yep. No matter how minuscule that change, it could be like, oh, there's a girl over there, or like, with enough men, like some guy's going to be like, oh, I got to get with her, the childish stuff. But like the mentality switches completely. So that's why Lois completely pacifies the conflict, because her presence, and on top of that, she's a mother as well. Her presence nullifies.
Oh yeah. Self-destruct says the mother of the Christ figure is effectively the mother of all. I mean, yeah, I'm not a Catholic, but that is it. I think that's a pretty much Catholic idea. Is I think they consider her like mother of the church, queen of heaven. I think it's beautiful. Like I said, I'm not Catholic because I wasn't raised in that tradition, but the more I've discovered about Catholicism, I think it's a beautiful tradition. So I'll say that. I have to say that because I see so much infighting of Orthodox Catholics and Protestants on Twitter. It's like, guys, we've got Islamists at the gate. Like, we got bigger problems to worry about right now.
Back it up.
Yeah, like chill out. But no, that's right. Destroy. I mean, in that scene, Lois is acting as a mother to both of them.
Yeah.
And she's kind of knocking their heads into each other, like as two brothers, in some way.
to specifically address what that viewer just said, it's what I was saying earlier about women being the gatekeepers of reality. Mary opened the portal for God's own consciousness to enter the world. She opened the portal that allowed God to possess a human body. And so, of course, she's of course the most important woman to ever live, because she literally was the one who opened the gate for God.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Well, and with that, I don't want to jump too far ahead, but I mean, the mother boxes. You know, I wrote about this, and I think we talked about it. It's like how Superman makes them a proper mother because they get to rebirth the greatest good, the highest good, and they're destroyed after that. What else can they do after that?
Right,
That's their purpose.
You are on this. You are really on to something there, because think about that in relation to actual mothers and actual women. My little cousin, she just had a baby like 2 weeks ago.
Congratulations!
Thanks, man. I
you
guess
did all the work.
Yeah. I'm an uncle now. I'm an uncle. But she just had a baby 2 weeks ago, and in her early teenage years, she's in her mid-20s now. But in her early teenage years, she was very self-destructive. She was very, loved to party, loved to, to heavily drink, and loved to, hedonistic pleasures. But that's all self-destructive. However, she has changed, like, into the lioness now that she's gave birth. Now that she has changed so much. They called them change machines in the movie, but technically all they really did was destroy one thing to change it into another. But with Superman, they reinstate. And so there's no telling. We'll have to wait until ZSJL2 to figure out what happens to them. But I think I like your theory about how they're complete now. Like the puzzle's solved. They almost look like alien Rubik's cubes. Like the puzzle's solved.
Well, that's the thing. They're almost this weird, motherly figure with Darkseid. They do what he wants to do. They change worlds to his will. They give him what he wants. And it seems to me that it's just so much more significant when they rebirth the Superman. And it's after that. They're not destroyed then. I think they are at the end of the film. I could be wrong after they break the Unity. But there's not, what else is there for them to do?
I have a thread. Yeah. I have a thread about this on Twitter. If you want to pull it up, it's
what should I search? What's the key word I should look for?
Search opening the eye.
Okay, give me a second.
But yeah, the mother. There's so many layers that are added to the DC lore. Like there's so the mother. I didn't even expect to talk about the mother boxes, but just it's so profound. While we're on it, I do have this theory about, Snyderverse, proper DC, whatever you want to call it, that Darkseid conquered Mars. And so he then came to Earth after that, and that was the old historic battle. That was after he conquered Mars. Because what does he say? I've turned 100,000 worlds to dust. Mars is dust. And so, if that's the case, that puts Martian Manhunter on Earth for at least 5,000 years.
Yeah.
Crazy theory. But yeah, this thread right here, it's about the mother boxes and how, and a lot of Campbell's theories about how once you ascend to the top of the pyramid, the eye of God opens. And it's very metaphysical. It's very...
That's great. I love that stuff.
And then this frame right here, forget its flash for a second. It's literally like God touching the top of a pyramid right there. Forget its flash and just consider the frame. So yeah, there's a lot to that.
Yeah, there's so many scenes in all of these movies that just look like paintings.
Oh yeah, every frame almost. But yeah, and then you see that pyramid shape reconstructed with each character depending on where they're standing.
I remember you posting this.
Yeah, each character takes their turn at the top of the pyramid because they all contribute to opening the eye of God.
God, that's good.
And then that's right there. That's opening the eye of God because it's the Kryptonian ship this big hole, sunlight comes in.
It's also the reimagining of Bruce looking up at the well
Oh,
when he was a
yeah.
child. Now it's bright and the light is pouring in now.
Yeah. Beautiful lie, the whole thing. Superman's not exactly who he was at first. And then there's Superman at the top of the
At
pyramid.
the top of the pyramid.
Yeah. And then they all follow in his example. So yeah, that was one of my early stuff.
And that's good.
DC Comics was not very happy about my original logo. They
yeah.
they reached out to me and was like, "Hold, buddy," and I was like, "Okay, I didn't."
So you're making us look too cool.
Yeah, right. Honestly, it was a blessing in disguise because I redesigned it to the new one, and it just it went great.
Well, but with that though, man, like,
excuse me first.
Yeah, no problem. Again, what you're discussing, what you're describing is hierarchy and power. And I've said it before on Twitter, and I'll say it here. Like, I think Batman v Superman may be the best film I've ever seen on the nature of power.
Oh, absolutely.
And I've seen people like somebody like, well, what about Scarface? Like, first of all, Scarface sucks. It's like, what about the guy? Like, I don't like Scarface. I don't care for that movie. I like Pacino. I think that movie's trash.
It's been a long time. I need to rewatch to really judge it.
It's and then somebody's like, well, what about The Godfather? It's like, okay, if you look at the films that people list, this goes back to what we were talking about. List about power. Mm-hmm. Power is always shown negatively. It's always men abusing power, power destroying men. Batman v Superman answers the question, who gets to wield power properly?
Right. Those men abuse power because they're not the Superman. Everybody always gets up in arms about the line, nobody stays good in this world, but it's such a beautiful line if you think about it, because, the rest of the movie for him, he proves that he's the only one that stays good. Yep. He ends his fight with Batman with his words. He, doesn't punish Lex in any crazy way, and he offers himself, for the world. So it's like he's the only one. Like, nobody stays good in this world. Yeah, nobody can except you. And so that's the real trigger to that line. And it's not explicitly like stated or laid out that way. You have to interpret his actions. Like we were saying in the beginning, like, not all the questions are going to be directly answered with proper DC, whether that's Dark Knight or Snyderverse or whatever.
Well, and there's this idea in it where there's a parallel between how he deals with Zod and how he deals with Batman, that none of the people who hate the neck snap ever realize. And it's like, well, he breaks Zod's neck because he has no other choice, and he's defending this family he does not know.
Right.
He has the power to, at any second before the kryptonite gas, to kill Batman to instantly save his mother, and he refuses to do it. Refuses.
He even says that one line is so brilliant. Yep. If I wanted it, you'd be dead already.
Yep.
And, some people tuck their tails at that line, but he's saying he doesn't want you dead.
Yeah, it's a fact. If I wanted the world dead, it would be dead.
Yeah, but then you get like the real pontificators like, what? Oh, but Superman say bad scary thing, and it's like, dude, it's Batman. He's not going to go down without a fight. You think he's not going to be like try and intimidate him or something? He could end the fight before Batman could even blink. But then you mentioned the kryptonite gas. First off, the kryptonite gas is how he first ever learns that kryptonite exists, which is crazy. He inhales it. It gets in his bloodstream. But at that point, he is fighting for his life. Conversation over, until we get to the Martha moment. But, like, conversation over, he's fighting for his life. He's like, he punches and, blocks his arm, and it's like, oh, like, I'm in trouble now.
And how, look at his character. That's the whole thing. Look at the character after he says no one stays good in this world. look what happens when this man is introduced to like real fear for the first time,
Right.
real weakness for the first time, and it's on the verge of death and the verge of losing his mother. How does he act? He's still selfless. He's still good.
He immediately takes action. He immediately jumps into battle. He immediately he doesn't even consider any act of cowardice at any point. Immediately into battle, like catching Doomsday's punch to save, like immediate, like without thought. And that's another thing about the Martha scene is that Batman just spent the last like 30 minutes or whatever trying to kill him, and then once the conflict's over, Superman instantly forgives him. Like, no questions asked, like, doesn't hold it against him, just like, he wanted your life for hers. Like, just total misunderstanding. You just had a spear to my throat, but like, total misunderstanding. We're good, dude. It takes the Superman to portray that level of forgiveness.
Oh yeah, he had already. You see the change. You see the change when they meet, because the first time he meets him as Batman, he wrecks the Batmobile.
Right.
Tries to intimidate Batman.
Oh,
you can't intimidate Batman.
It's so good.
And he threatens him. And he says, the bat is dead, hanging up. You see it in the sky. Don't go to it.
Consider this mercy.
Yeah, and Batman responds with, "I don't care who you are. Outside of I am vengeance, I am the night, I am Batman, the tell me, do you bleed, you will is the most Batman line ever."
Yeah.
That's a Frank Miller line. Had Frank Miller written the movie, he still would have used that line.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You see the switch, but the second the stakes become real and Lex is like, you have to go kill him, the second he lands, he's like, Bruce, we gotta talk. Like, that's over. Yeah, he immediately, all the pride, any sense of pride or ego, he doesn't have.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the whole thing, is like, Superman can be scary, but even when he's threatening Batman, he doesn't want to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, he doesn't want he's constantly put in all these situations, and you see people pontificate, not to overuse the word, but it fits too well. That's what DC's detractors do. They just pontificate all day. But they talk about how, like, Superman only had 42 lines or whatever. So the point of the movie is that he can't get a word in. Nobody else.
The whole world's talking.
Nobody else has shut up long enough for him to like get a word in. So it's like it plays in the film's theme. I had a different point than that, but I got caught on that. Oh yeah, the "tell me, do you bleed" line. I actually saw another cousin of mine today that I hadn't seen in years, and he's a few years younger than me. I'm 28, but I was showing him my channel and all that, and he asked me like which video I was most proud of, and so I showed him the whole, the brilliance of BVS, the defining contemporary epic, remastered edition, all that. It's a mouthful, I know. But one of the segments of that video is specifically about the "Do You Bleed" scene. Because when I was initially doing research for that project, I read this book, Hollywood, the Pentagon, and Washington, by Jean-Michel Valentin. I think I'm pronouncing that right. But he talks about how in like the news footage following 9/11, they didn't show blood at all. They didn't show blood at all because they wanted the nation, they wanted America to maintain that invulnerability, to maintain that like messianic identity, all that. And so that goes back to my most recent video about Superman's personification of America. So long, I say in that video, so long as the Superman has yet to bleed, neither will he. He will not be mortal or like beatable at all. It's 29 of 90 if you search it on my channel. I'm not saying you have to do that. It's 29 of 90 if you search it on my channel. But yeah, there's so much depth. There's so much substance. I could just talk about these 3 movies all night, but there's like so much more.
Well, the only time the Superman bleeds is when he's bleeding for someone else.
Great point.
That's the whole thing, is like he allows himself to be beaten by Batman to a certain extent. He was prepared for that, I think, even though he didn't know Batman had kryptonite. But he was
not at all.
prepared to go toe to toe to however dark this is going to go.
You make a good point about how anytime he bleeds, he only bleeds for someone else because there's only 3 times. There's the Martha moment where he bleeds for his own mother. Wait, let me back up. There's the scene on the Zod ship in Man of Steel where he just offered himself in favor of humanity, where he bleeds to adjust to the atmospheric conditions. Then in the Martha scene where he bleeds for his mother, and then in Doomsday where he bleeds for the world. That's crazy point there. Great catch.
Well, that's man, I'm so glad I think somebody on your thread posted that the spear looks like a cross.
Oh yeah,
I'd never noticed that.
The gift that just keeps on giving. You know, like, there's stuff I still haven't found. I haven't even done the whole like Prometheus Lex route, but yeah, that reply to my tweet the other day about the gleam of the shard,
even that comes off
looking like a cross, and he literally picks it up to go sacrifice himself. Whoever that user is, whoever that responder was, like brilliant catch.
Let me throw that up here real quick.
Yeah. Give that man his credit. I can't see it on the screen, but yeah, insane catch. That one person commented, "Oh, it looks like a capital T."
That's a bot.
You know the spear comes to a point. So yeah, that he literally picks up his cross and then follows Christ in the most explicit way he can.
Oh yeah. While he's still struggling to fly while he does it.
Yeah, see, this is what I mean when I say that the Snyderverse offers so much more to DC's lore. When has Superman ever picked up a kryptonite weapon and charged into battle with it? Just insane. You can explain it in the most simple way possible, and it's the most insane addition to the lore ever.
Well, it's almost like the harrowing of hell. Like, look at the surroundings.
Oh, just fire! It's Doomsday.
Yeah.
Doomsday has arrived. Like there's such a way to play with that name, like in terms of wordplay. Like Doomsday's arrived. Like whether it's the character's name or like the concept of Doomsday.
Well, even when they wrote that in the 90s, that was the whole point. I mean, what can stop the Superman? Doomsday. Who can prevent Doomsday? The Superman.
The very last panel of that comic is it's something like this, but I know it says these 2 words. It's the day a Superman died.
Superman died.
Superman, yeah.
Yep.
And so like I try and tell people all the time, like there's such a difference between Superman, the Superman, and a Superman. And that Superman is the only one that really has the a Superman aspect, but like every superhero pretty much has the aspect, because the before the superhero name. So the superhero name only applies to like their name, it's who they are. But the superhero is their position within the mythology. Like the Superman, the highest power, the Batman. Hell, you saw it in the Reeves film. He was like a shaman. He was like he was the like Nightcrawler, the Batman, or in the Snyder Cut, Arthur Curry, the Aquaman, the King of the Seas, the Master of the Ocean. Like it's maybe not Master of the Ocean, that's someone else, but close enough. But yeah, it's also crazy. Like just nothing else within comic book culture really holds a candle to it, and we can talk about all the reasons that people don't get it, but like the MCU maybe has like 3 good movies, 3 like really just knockout films, and then like what else is there? The Raimi Spider-Man films, I'll give them that.
Yeah, they're fantastic.
The best ever.
But again, the second one in particular everyone loves is where Spider-Man is brought to human level. He's fighting this guy, this literally kind of like a Promethean figure of Doc Ock trying to create the sun in the palm of his hands. And it's got the most famous Spider-Man scene of any movie where he's Jesus. He's
Right.
stopping the train.
Oh yeah, yeah,
The people carry him, and they like, oh, he just died for us, but then he's alive.
yeah. Because Spider-Man's not being kind when he does that. He's not being nice. He's not being a sweetheart. You know, he's being self-sacrificial. He's
Yeah.
being self-sacrificial. He's laying down his life for others. He's being a hero, and he's being a Christ-imitating hero. So
Well,
yeah,
that's the thing. It's tie it back to the original like segue to BVS, the nature of power.
right.
The being that is most like Christ, which if I have to even take like let's say a historical materialist view, which is, let's just say it's the story of the West out of all the stories.
America.
Yeah. The being that more embodies that myth is the one we recognize as the most good.
Yeah, right.
Even like it's, I don't know what to tell you. It's like if Superman were like, it just goes into great detail, beating you over the head, even in a good way, of who deserves power. And it's the man that can wield it self-sacrificially and knows the virtue of wielding power itself. He's strong.
The man that will use it for others. Yeah, absolutely. And you see people complain. You see atheists and liberals and whoever else, they complain all the time about, oh, Superman's not a Jesus figure. Superman's not a Jesus figure. It's like, well, do you want him to be savior of all the world? Do you want Superman to,
Who else is he?
How can he not be that? Like, yeah, he has connections to Moses. He has connections to Samson. He's all of those things. He's not just like one particular person, but just on the most basic level, you can't say, oh, I want Superman to, save all the people of Earth and, save all the people of Earth and prevent the coming of Doomsday. It's like, well, that's Jesus. Like that.
Yeah. What do you want me to tell you?
It's having your cake and eating it too.
Well, I've made this point before that, and it's strictly the MCU, and I guess you could argue the comics as well, but like Thor 1, Thor is this arrogant, brash, young jerk, basically, that starts an unnecessary war. And how does Odin punish him? He makes him human. And he says, you got to learn to sacrifice for humanity. And he gets his power back by dying for humanity. Like, we only understand Thor when he's most like Jesus.
Yeah. Well, there's the beginning of the film that you mentioned where he's really prideful about his position within Asgardian royalty, and then he's cast down to Earth through a bolt of lightning. It's like, well, yeah, there you go. So now time to imitate the right person, I guess.
Yeah. Well, yeah, exactly. That's the point. It's like he starts a war in heaven, and he's cast down like lightning. He's got this prideful Satan-esque figure, as you're saying, and he has to learn to be Jesus, which it's really, I shouldn't say it's weird because that's how cultures adapt stories, but it's weird people don't see it. It's like, that's not Thor and Odin from pagan mythology, man. Like, they did not care about human beings. They would not die for humans.
No, like, God, no. This is marvelized superhero comic booky goodness.
Well, it's Christianized, and like the fact that you can't see that, it's like, it's not me trying to proselytize. It's not you trying. It's just like, this is the waters we swim in.
It's influence. Like I've had very select few people accuse me of like blasphemy before, and I'm like, I'm not saying that these other people are Jesus. I'm saying that these other people take after Jesus. So to call my work blasphemy is to deny the Bible of its influence, because I'm saying that the Bible has influenced these things this certain way.
Well, that's just an ignorant. This goes back to my point. This is an ignorance of art. Like, that's what really kind of hurts my soul and gives me like hope, is that I think people just don't understand art, man. Especially Christians at this point.
TikTok brain. Yes. Fry people's minds. But it's what you just connected to one of our original points very well, talking about how like actual Norse Thor and Odin wouldn't care about humanity, but marvelized Christian Thor and Odin, they do. because Norse Thor and Odin never lived the human experience.
Mhm.
Marvel Thor sent down to Earth, depowered, lived the human experience, was able to be a savior. So, full circle.
Oh yeah, and Loki lives out the bitter victim.
Oh yeah,
Life shafted him. His father isn't really his father, or he's like half of it, and he's weaker than his brother. He's not the same. Da, 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 da. He's always bitter and mad that he's not the hero.
right, right.
Yeah, and at any moment he could be. He's Homelander.
And so yeah, he appeals to that reverse, that backwards mentality of, you know, the victim is the hero, because oh bad Thor, oh bad Odin, you know, they're oppressing me or whatever. It's like, well, now you're powerless, so you're trying to appeal to people who, I don't want to say empathize, who pity powerlessness.
Yeah,
Um,
which is a motherly trait.
right, and again, that goes back to the feminine and goes back to liberalism and that whole backwards mentality. Because a lot of times when people talk about empathy, they really mean pity.
Yeah,
And it's like empathy is knowing your situation, but I don't have to enable it either. Like, I understand what you're going through, but you need to take these steps to get out of it. Pity is, oh, I feel so bad for you. You need to feel so bad for me. Oh, poor me. It's a totally different thing. And so those two terms get kind of viciously intertwined there.
well, they do, and like I'm pretty sure, I could be wrong. They used to think that like psychopaths, serial killers, or so didn't have empathy, but then they kind of realized, like, well, they have to think like they're victims. They have to map someone's lifestyle or life experience that's not theirs. That's how predators think. And it's like, well, maybe we need to understand what empathy is, but like empathy is almost an empty word at this point.
Yeah,
It kind of just means at its basis being able to think or feel like someone else. It's like, well, that's not a virtue. That doesn't tell me anything.
yeah, that's not an excuse to enable. People who weaponize that word so heavily are trying to attach, understand how I feel, and enable the actions I'm excusing with it.
Yeah, bend to my will.
Right. Understand and enable. When empathy is really only understand. Pity would be to enable.
Yeah, that's the thing, is empathy. It's not a virtue. It's just basically a tool.
Yeah,
it's not something that's necessarily good or bad. It's just a part of human behavior.
Yeah, things have to be different. Things have to be separate for it to be anything at all. If you were to tolerate everything, then you would be nothing. Like we were saying about Superman earlier, he has to be separated from humanity, and then we have to try and relate to him instead of him coming down to us. He has to have that separate identity.
Oh, sacred even.
Oh, absolutely. I said this in my recent video. It's not to say that Superman is God, but he's the closest thing to it of man.
Yeah. That's what the king was supposed to be.
Right.
Yeah. And to tie it, I keep trying to get back to this point, and I keep getting off tangent, but Lex Luthor in BVS. First of all, I thought Jesse Eisenberg did a great job. I got no problem with it. Yeah.
Fantastic.
And second, he just, what a brilliant villain. Like, he understands his motivation. He knows it's that he hates God. He knows it. Yeah, and he does not care. And it's like this is a ridiculously competent and evil villain.
Like, evil. Pure evil. He bombed the courthouse and didn't even flinch. Like,
and he killed Hope.
But it's just like that atheist mentality, where the atheist mentality is so reliant on God not existing that it will take any step it has to ensure that God does not exist, which is exactly what Lex does with Superman.
Mercy, not Hope. Sorry. Yeah, he kills his own assistant, like just to.
Yeah. I swear I talked about this on Twitter one day, but he kills Mercy. Mercy.
Yeah, I asked you about that. Like, what does it mean that he killed Mercy?
Yeah, I think it might have been us that had that conversation.
Yeah, it was.
I tweeted about it before.
Yeah, because I think because Bruce, you pointed out, I believe that Bruce Wayne's assistant is Joy.
Oh, yeah.
The lady that's giving him the letters and stuff. He's like, "Thank you, Joy."
Joy, why haven't I seen this? Where was this? I'm sorry, sir. We'll get right on it.
Well, there's a whole thing there. I think I haven't thought about it too much, but between like Lex Luthor's Mercy or lack thereof and Bruce Wayne's Joy.
That's
like,
wow.
Yeah.
Again, the gift that just keeps on giving. Like they tell you to move on. It's like, bro, we're still trying to get through it. Like we've sifted through a decade's worth of material. We're not even done.
Well, it's this thing like Lex. I don't know, like this. It's not even over the top. Like the way Lex perceives things and the way he discusses, like he just lays it, and that's why like this is one of the best villains I've ever seen. Man, he says the problem is you above all.
Yeah, you on top of everything else. You above all. It's spite. It's hatred. It's viciousness.
And it's not a hiding behind the veneer of liberalism or that's the word I'm looking for, libertine. It's not Lex saying we're here together and I hate that you're above us. It's that I want to be you above all.
It's Prometheus taking his revenge on Zeus. That's why everything Lex does involves fire. The Africa scene, they burn all the bodies. He's going to burn Martha alive. Doomsday brings about plenty of fire, but it's Prometheus taking his revenge on Zeus. It's like, oh, well, you're not going to let me burn the world down. I'm going to do it anyway. That sort of thing.
Well, and for all the because I know this is a big topic now, like Nephilim, Book of Enoch, and all that kind of stuff. So, and this will be a whole thing to go on. Is Lex spends the first part of the movie talking about like he's demonizing Superman. Devils come from above, which was, man, that was great. I love the flipping of that painting. Even when I saw it in theaters for the first time, it was like not the ultimate edition. It was like just a theater cut. I was like, oh man, that's great. But he makes an unholy mixture, and that's how you get Doomsday. Mm-hmm. He takes the being from above, Zod, even if it is fallen, which is the fallen, and he mixes it with his own DNA, human DNA.
So technically, Doomsday is Nephilim because because Zod's that fallen angel. I mean, that's what Kryptonians are in American mythology. They are the fallen angels of American mythology because they have to come here from Krypton. They come down. There's several comics where estranged Kryptonians visit, and it all just plays into each other. And then people get so up in arms about the idea of the ancient Greek gods being Kryptonian, and I'm like,
that's a great idea for that.
That rips. That is awesome. It explains where they get their abilities from, and it explains like so much. And they're like, oh, well, that takes away from Wonder Woman. It's like, no, it doesn't. Everything can happen the same way. It just explains where they get their abilities from. Because in Man of Steel, Jor-El specifically mentions that the age of Earth's sun is what is a contributing factor in Superman's powers. So Earth's sun that's 20,000 years earlier, like who knows what it could do to a Kryptonian.
Oh, yeah. So, well, and that's... I love that idea, and just adding to like, it seemed to me Snyder, he wasn't the only writer, but those guys that wrote Man of Steel, BVS, and Justice League, I think if that was a comic series, no one would complain about it. They would have been like, this is one of the best Superman stories in the past 30, 40 years.
Right.
The fact that it's a film, that's what people have a problem with it. And I think, because like if you took that Lex Luthor and put him in a comic with that dialogue, no one would have a problem.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And but to say on top of it real quick though, is like,
go ahead.
I think that underlying bitterness towards these films is Lex is kind of right from the modern perspective that Superman did not earn his power. But regardless, he he represents this kind of monarchist identity of you were born with it or into it, and this aristocracy type view of, but you were groomed to wield it. And that is something that since like the French Revolution, we have not tolerated, is the idea that someone could be born into greatness and be worthy of it.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Yeah. That's a great point. Wow. I hadn't thought of that.
He undermines all of the view of things. And like, that's the thing that like Lex was born into power and he's not worthy of it.
Right.
Batman.
Right. Yeah.
Batman was born into privilege and built himself up to hold
he's
it.
got a little bit of both. Yeah.
Yeah, but he's a fallen. I think that's the great dynamic of Batman, is that he's Lex or Superman.
Right.
And and he's pulled between those two, and it's like you see what he could be and what he's becoming.
Right. Another thing on top of all that is that what we were saying about how a true savior has to live as man first in order for their sacrifice to really mean anything, is that Lex and Batman in the film, and this expands to the greater DC lore, but Lex and Batman in the film, they don't know that he's had that human experience. You were never a god, you were never even a man, or that from that little, time you learn what it means to be a man, all that. they don't know that he grew up in Kansas. They don't know because it's not relevant. Like,
they don't care.
It doesn't matter. Batman didn't know Clark Kent's identity. Irrelevant. This man literally wields the power of God. We have to do something about it. And I have a really old thread and then an older video on my channel about how only the people who previously had power before Superman's emergence on Earth are the only people that are threatened by Superman's power, because normal people, they're no more or less threatened by Superman than they are the government or
finally a man with power is using it competently.
He's using it benevolently. He immediately abandons his job to go save that girl in like the Mexican city, and he's actually using it to help people who are abandoned and powerless. That's the whole scope. That is really the full scope of Superman's character right there, is that his heroism, his attributes, his saving is to save people who are abandoned and powerless, completely unable to do anything. Because if you just have them go around kind of solving problems, let's get a squirrel off the street, let's blow a dog out of the way, like I don't know who would ever do this, but like let's put out this fire or whatever. It's just him going around like scoring points basically to like save here, save there. But when the people Superman is saving are truly abandoned and powerless and there's no hope for them, Superman's heroism, Superman showing up is what gives that so much value. It's that last moment. It's that darkest. It's that dawn just after the darkest. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah. No, that's the thing, is he embarrasses the world powers.
Oh, absolutely.
And that's from the first scene of BVS. Not only is he undermining the power of this African warlord or Middle Eastern warlord, but the U.S. government as well.
Oh, absolutely.
And that's the whole thing, is that's what Lex penned from day one, and that is the description of sin. It's you're mad that you're not God. And you're trying to act as if you are.
Yeah, what I was saying about people like not knowing that he has lived the human experience, that he's of Earth, that he knows what their life is like. Yeah. He has experienced all the same stages of life that he has, but they don't know that. And so this is where Senator Finch and Kahina Ziri come in, and they're two of the best characters in the movie. But also wonderful cast. Helen Hunt. Brilliant. Holly Hunter and her
Holly Hunter, that's
arms,
it.
Like,
wonderful, perfect casting. Yeah.
But then the character's name, Kahina Ziri, the African lady, where she gives that speech, and I could probably recite it if I really tried, but the real important line is he answers to no one, not even I think to God.
Yeah.
So like they don't know that he's also a man. They just think he has the power of God, and so it's brilliant.
Well, this is like a biblical like barb that comes up a lot. The circular judgment is because we touched on this. You touched on this because he has lived as a man. He is fit to judge the world.
Right.
That's what makes it worse. And
Yeah.
I think that's again, it's and C.S. Lewis kind of talked about this: the idea of good always increasing in goodness and evil always increasing in evil. Lex Luthor knows more about Superman than Batman does, and he hates him more. And it's that circular thing. He learns more about him to hate him more. And Batman kind of in his, I don't know, the goodness in him to not learn that much, to not, I don't know, the circular to not to learn to hate him even more. Because if he learned he was a farm boy from Kansas, he'd probably hate him even more.
Right. That goes back to Luke 23 with the crucifixion. Because think about it. Christ in the center, the thief on the left, thief on the right. The thief on the left, he's like, if you truly are Christ, if you truly are who you say you are, then save yourself and save us. Like, I know you can do that. I'm taunting you. I know more. Like, if I know that you can do that. I don't understand that you're willingly not doing that because of your ultimate purpose. But then the thief on the right, he has no idea what's going to happen, which is perfectly Lex and Batman. He has no idea what's going to happen. He's just like, remember me when you get to the kingdom. Remember me in paradise. I have no idea what's going to happen, but I mean, you seem like my best option right now, trying to relate to the thief on the right. But like, so remember me when you get to paradise. And he's like, I will. But he doesn't know what's going to happen. Yeah. But the thief on the left, he thinks he knows what's going to happen.
Oh yeah, and that's the brilliance of that role, that contrast of that triad between those three. And to tie all this together, because we could talk about this for 6 hours, and maybe we should someday. But Wonder Woman's entire arc, and again, this kind of goes back to the male feminine thing. She has been sent a long time ago to live among man, to understand man, and she's basically failed. She still doesn't really understand man, and she's not the first one on the battle line to defend Earth. And partially, again, going back to this thing, it might be because she's female. She can't fully understand man, unlike Superman.
She can't fully understand man, not until the Superman comes along. Not until the Superman's emergence.
But that's a great point, and that's what's so beautiful is like, who else is fit, for the Amazon, the fullness of woman, the Superman.
Yeah, of course, because I could dive into so much about this, but I talk about it all the time. Is that Superman exists as both dualities simultaneously, and I guess what you just said there about like who else is fit to be the Wonder Woman, well, that would be the Superman, because he just encapsulates all realms of duality. But you said something there a second ago.
Well, she challenges man to be the Superman.
Right. And Superman brings all the Justice League members out of hiding. He brings them all out of emergence. I mean, this is pretty obvious in Justice League, but there's such a depth to it that I've tried to cover in my videos. I've done Aquaman and Cyborg so far. I got to get to the other. But he just brings them all out of hiding because he shows the world the best of what man can be, and that's being a self-sacrificial hero.
Well, and there's a beautiful thing, I think, possibility there with Cyborg is the incarnation of the modern man, the technology and the flesh. And the way that Snyder did that is he doesn't come off as this cold analytical machine.
Right.
He's the heart of the group.
Yeah.
He's the most human of the groups, you could argue.
Because detractors complain about his design, about it's too metallic, it's too much robot. But the only thing that's left of him, the only parts of his human anatomy that's left of him are his heart and his mind.
Yeah.
So, like,
And half the mind is robotic.
Right. Yeah, it's half the mind, but his heart is still fully
Yeah.
intact. That's why you see him like in the hospital. It's just his chest there.
Yeah. Well, Lewis, he's Lewis's man with a chest in a world with men without chests from Abolition of Man.
Yeah.
So the man, I'm just saying that you can run this whole argument of like a challenge against techno dooming and futurism of the man with chest still survives the cybernetic world.
Right.
The technocracy future.
Because you still have that like human grit. You still have that.
Yeah.
You still have lived as man. Yeah, that's. I hate that we've just talked about 3 movies all night. It's just so much. I could literally do this all day. Like
I know, right?
I try to have some variation in my channel with my content, but there's just so much there with the Dark Knight trilogy, Snyderverse, and just other examples of proper DC. There's just so much ground to cover, and I'm like, well, we got to do this topic, and that's all in the same movie. So,
no, but just I think that is and we haven't really started on Justice League, guys. Right now, we're basically playing catch up from Twitter, like this, because
pretty much,
yeah. But this idea, like Batman as the apostle of the Superman, in Justice League.
I gotta admit, you gave me that idea full blown. I had to. I'm
just riffing off your ideas when I say that stuff.
Hey, well, it all works out then. But yeah, I wanted to get to the resurrection this Easter, and just life kind of threw some speed bumps in my way, so I'll have to wait till next Easter. But I did get that Batman and the Apostle Paul video in, and there's some that one was really slept on. I made like 5 edits for that video, and one was about how Paul has to stand before Caesar, and I really took Darkseid as the Caesar figure in that, because Batman is, it's implied that he's going to have to face him at some point, and there's so much to it. But Darkseid, as little screen time as he has quite an impact. There's quite some mythology there to him as well. Everyone loves to call him Space Satan, right? But I'm going to get into this a little bit more later this year when it's cool enough outside to break out my bat suit again. But everybody calls Darkseid Space Satan to some degree, right? But if you really look at the nightmare and see what's going on, and then read Leviticus, Darkseid is acting as like the brutal Old Testament God.
Yeah.
Like he is punishing people severely for not conforming to his order, for not worshiping him, for not for straying from his will at all. That's anti-life, the whole thing. It's anyone who strays from his will is severely punished. He sends locusts with the parademons. There's that one part, and I've tweeted this so many times, that one verse. I think it's Leviticus 26:22. I could be wrong. But he says, your highways shall be desolate. And then in the Snyder Cut nightmare scene, they're standing on a broken highway. It's unbelievable. It's like, this is magnificent.
And his parademons are reminiscent of locusts.
Right.
As a plague,
And then the drought, the whole thing with the sand planet, and there's so much just substance there. Like when people say style over substance, I'm like, what are you talking about? How could you even conceive of that? So, there's just so much to it. But just to kind of get in some other things, I do want to expand my channel out more. I need to get some Marvel videos in there. I know I said I'm very partial to DC earlier, but the last time I watched The Incredible Hulk, there's this one scene where basically the military-industrial complex, the NSA, whoever, they hunt him down. They're tracking Bruce Banner through all his financial transactions and his emails, his phone calls, whatever it is. And that's how they find him in that, South American village. And that's the Matrix coming after the Hulk. That's truly the Matrix, the combination of all this government technology that can track you to anywhere on the planet. And so we literally see the Incredible Hulk versus the Matrix, and it's this whole metaphor how for when the common man gets too much power is when the Matrix cracks down on him.
Oh yeah.
I also want to talk about Spider-Man 3 because I made an image for it. Talking, if you want to search the tweet, it's "Beware the Wages." But
all right.
Venom in Spider-Man 3 and the symbiote in general is this just profound metaphor for repentance and sin, because when Peter has the black suit on, he is driven to every sin there is, from slapping MJ to lusting all over Gwen
Stacy, yeah.
Yeah. He commits every sin in the book, and him having to go to the church to go to the bell to get the bell to cast the demons out. He's repenting of all his sins, and that's how hard it is. Sin feels like freedom until you try to stop. That's why he has to exhaust himself to pull the symbiote off of him, because he's trying to steer free from sin. And
again, it's another thing that fell to earth.
Right. Oh, absolutely. Great. I got to write that down for when I make that video. Absolutely. I didn't even think about that. But yeah, there's so much. But it just kind of speaks to our whole point about how, like, this is proper Marvel. This is, we talk about proper DC. All this big smiles and bright colors and hopscotch and bubblegum, it just doesn't, it doesn't capture anything. It doesn't, it's meaningless. It's shallow. It's vapid. I don't know, but there is such proper portrayals of superheroes out there.
Well, I'm reading I've got Hans Christian Andersen's fairy tales, like big fat whole collection book that I read with my kids. And people always make the meme of like how brutal they are. It's like, no, like they're not brutal. Like they're not stupid and they're not silly. Like when you read Thumbelina, even, it's like this frog kidnaps her to try to marry her off to her ugly son that's a frog. Mm-hmm. And then she escapes there. And then like this field mouse who's nice tries to like hook her up with a mole to marry, but and he can take care of her, but she'll never see the sun again. Right. And she finally escapes off this bird that she nursed back to health, and she meets people like a fairy just like her, and she gets married. And it's just chock full of like everything we're talking about. We could do like a 4-hour talk on Thumbelina. Yeah, and that sounds dumb, but it's there. Like,
yeah, because they're retelling the same story humanity's told itself forever. Yeah. Like, it's the same reason that Batman v Superman is such a brilliant imitation of the gospel, that those fairy tales are found in literally what we're talking about today, when we hadn't even brought them up at all. So they're just retelling that myth, and you have to communicate that to children, especially because they're gonna run into monsters in the world, and they're all not gonna be some like harmless booger monster that you can just, evacuate 10 million citizens in an instant and just have a guy blow them up with some bombs. Like, I don't know what kind of story that would be. That would be a horrible story. But yeah, there's real monsters out there. There's real threats. Like, real things happen, and you have to portray that properly. You can't just have this world of bubblegum where there's no consequences.
Yeah, you can't Steven Universe the future.
Right, exactly. Because what, like, if someone were to advocate against that, they're doing this hypothetical child a disservice by pacifying the world they're actually going to experience. Yeah. Life is hard, and you need the myth to show you like how to navigate how humanity from centuries past has gotten through the same situation.
That's a whole deep dive I want to do on the mystification series. Is time exists for narrative. Mm-hmm. Narrative is how we understand every single bit of existence. There is nothing without narrative. And when you lose that, you lose reality. That's the weird yin yang or reflection. Is stories define reality because they tell it. Yeah.
Yeah, conflict like that is going to shape that narrative because it's going to decide what you have to do. To simplify it into a phrase, like what would Jesus do? But like genuinely, like when you have power, when you run into this problem, when this occurs, well, what do you do? And it's like, well, what do the myths say to do with it?
Yeah, what's the guy who did this better than I? What did he do?
Yeah, when you're in the back alleys of the city, what does Batman do? When you wield power for the first time in your life, whether you're like a hiring manager or something, what do you do with power? Well, what does the Superman do? And then eventually, what does Jesus do?
Yeah. I mean, I read a Substack on that. It's like God deals in power was one of them. And the other one, I forgot, maybe it was the same thing, but it asked the question, like, is it up to the pagan to defend the innocent? And, the answer, of course, I would say is no, it's not. And that's the biggest thing is what father would look at their son and say, you shouldn't wield the power of being a father one day? No one would say that. But
Right.
You extrapolate it out, like, what's a policeman supposed to do? What's a president supposed to do? What's a king supposed to do?
Right.
And the modern world cannot answer that question. They cannot tell you what a man should do with power. Right now, it just means, like, I guess we just let people come in and kill us. Like, I don't know.
Just leave the doors unlocked. Yeah, I'm sure that'll be fine.
Yeah, and it's the answer the modern world can give you is like, well, it depends on what kind of man you are, your skin tone. Like, give it to somebody else. Give it to a woman. That's what you're supposed to do.
Yeah. They're a victim. So you need to not have power because
perfect circle. What you were just saying, the power must go to the victim. Then
the victim is someone who is powerless, but in this twisted, backwards version of reality, the victim is the hero. So anyone who has power is explicitly evil. There is no good that can be done with power because, power corrupts. Power corrupts absolutely unless you're the Superman. And so not enough men are the Superman. And I'm not saying I'm not saying I am, I'm definitely no perfect example, far from it, but it's that attempt to imitate. It's that attempt to imitate what proper examples of power look like, to not abuse it and to not let it consume you. Like, I try to stress this on my channel, but, now that I have this chance to speak, it's like, I don't claim to be an expert. I'm taking people who want to watch on the journey with me. It's the journey of what I'm learning and what I'm discovering. So I'm never trying to like outright say, like, I know this and you should do this and you should do like what I do. Would never say that. It's like, where can we find the best examples of how men use power to do good?
You will give the people of Earth an ideal to strive towards.
They will stumble. They will fall for damn sure.
But they'll join you in the sun.
They will join you in the sun, and you will accomplish wonders. That's what you get from imitating the Superman. That key word is the whole idea of my channel. It's imitation. Imitation of heroes, imitation of men who wield power. And so if we're joining Superman in the sun, then we're doing what he's doing.
Yeah.
And so that right there, that alone is imitation.
Oh, yeah. I'm going to have to sign off. I'm getting the text. I got to go take care of the babies. Tristan, right. I've loved having you on, man. We're going to do this way more often.
Yeah, we definitely need to. I did want to give you an exclusive.
Yeah.
I probably shouldn't do this. This is probably a really bad idea, but I don't care. I need your guarantee that what I'm about to say won't be promoted, won't be tweeted or anything. This is only for people who watched all 2 hours of this.
Sure.
I've been at this a long time. I've been in the fandom a long time, and I have always been around. And it got to the point where I was anonymous enough to, cause some sort of ruckus at least. But I was like, if I'm anonymous, like, what can I really do if I'm like a real person?
Mm-hmm.
So I've been around for a while, but you might have known me longer than you thought, because I do have an alternative name. Some people do know me as John Warpower, or Big John, but not many people do. So after so long of being told that I don't know what I'm talking about, and oh, you're not a real Superman fan or whatnot, I decided to, fine, I'll do it myself. So it feels good to kind of finally be free and have the credibility that comes with, authenticity. But
I think that's important. I think the age of the anon is kind of over and done with, and legitimacy comes with using your real name and your real face.
Yeah, because who gives a shit about what Big John has to say? But Tristan Fields might have a thought or two.
Yeah.
So,
well, I'll just talk to random people. I think I did yesterday. I was like, "Hey, man, you should follow Modern Saviors," and this guy was like, "I already do. I love what he says."
Oh yeah, Dakota. Yeah,
yeah.
Me and him actually used to live like 30 minutes apart. Me and him have had beers together and stuff. Like
nice.
he knows me personally.
That's awesome, man.
But yeah, so if you ever see, Modern Saviors have a really big fan, you might know why.
All right, man. Well, I've got to run. We'll work out something. I'd love to. I'm saying this to everybody. I'm trying to build kind of like a round table of dudes I could have like really long discussions with, particularly on myth and legend and art. And I'd love for you to be there. There's always room at the table.
Yeah, that'd be awesome, man. Let's plan it out. Next time we do this, let's try and incorporate like some different topics so we don't just talk about DC all night. But hey,
all right,
man. It's been a blast.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you all for watching.